the computer. Hello, so today we are here doing our live in a little different way. I'm actually going to be away on vacation, and so I wanted these two lovely ladies to entertain you while I was away, our Thursday live. So welcome, Emma and Kate. Hello.
Hi.
Hello. So this is a really tough one. I was saying it's 9 a.m. here in North Carolina, and my animals are enjoying their morning craziness. And it is 9 p.m. there in Australia, isn't it? So we're having coffee, and some of us are having wine. So whatever you're having while you enjoy our live chat, we welcome you, and we're excited to have you. And thank you for being a follower on Family Pause. So ladies, who would like to begin to tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, and let's just begin. How about Emma? You seem very, very bubbly today.
Way more bubbly than me right now.
Let's start with
the kids are asleep. I'm great. Yeah, so hi, I'm Emma. I have been a trainer for about 12 years, having a bit of a hiatus over the last few years to have kids. I originally qualified here in Perth through an industry training program, and now I have qualified through the IMDT.
Okay.
Yeah, so good fun. Currently studying towards more behaviour qualifications, I guess. I'm doing their level 4. Parent pause licensed educator, and a mum of 3, a dog mum of 1, and a cat mum of 1. Oh, and I've got a husband too.
You have a what?
A husband.
Oh.
Wherever it is.
I was just like waiting for some exotic kind of animal. Well, okay. We love those husbands.
Yeah. That's me in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we'll get back to you and expand a little more in depth about that and real life at your house. So, Kate, how about you?
Yeah, so I always get very confused for how long I've been doing stuff. Couldn't remember.
I thought you were going to say about the number of kids.
That too. No, I only got that. Anyway, I was a vet nurse going back a long time ago. Did a bit of veterinary pathology as well. Ended up doing dog training, having my first special needs doggo. I qualified through an Australian accredited one, just because I found something and that was good. I'm now like Emma, honestly, pretty similar stories, I do believe. Now, like Emma, I am IMDT qualified. Obviously, Family Pause as well, and Fear Free certified. I am working. In theory, I'm just finishing up my maternity leave from my second, but trying to figure out how to work again. So yeah, we have 4-year-old Penny, we have 8-month-old Alfie, we have doggos Evie and Ziggy. Evie's a sensitive little dingo rescue girl who's scared of a lot of stuff. Ziggy is a crazy 2.5-year-old border collie who has hip dysplasia.
Oh wow!
And yeah, I pick him really well. And then we've got a kitty as well. But yeah, like Emma, I'm also in the process of trying to figure out how to work towards the more behaviour side of the qualifications for IMDT. So yeah.
Excellent. I'm being summoned by my dog, who's barking at the door. So I'm going to ask you a question, Emma. So tell us a little bit about the kids and your dogs a little bit more. I'm going to listen, but I'm going to jump and let Ruth wake up.
Too easy.
Yeah.
All right. So I've got Sam, who he is just turned 6. I have Lachlan, who is 3.5, and I have Eloise, who's just turned 1. So we've got a very, very busy household. Sam is in full-time school. This is his second year of full-time school. Lockie will be in kindy next year, which is part-time.
Yeah.
And Ellie's obviously still got a couple of years to go. So very busy household. And then I've got Archie. He is nearly 12 now. He was a little rescue from the RSPCA. We believe he's what we call a Pilbara Special here in Perth. So he's come from up north, a camp dog. Likely to have a mix of about 1,000 breeds within him, including dingo. He's got a lot of the characteristics of.
I think a lot of them have dingoes.
Yeah, that's it. Those dingoes get around. And then we've also got Stomper, who is our, I'd say he's nearly two-year-old cat. He was a rescue as well, and he keeps us on our toes. Keeps Archie on his toes.
Oh,
yes. So that's basically our household. They're a bit of fun.
They are a lot of fun. So what's it like with the kids and dogs, or what did you find? I know you've been a Family Paws educator. I don't remember exactly when you started, but what did you find was most helpful as you navigated this menagerie, this group, as this all these individuals?
Yeah. Kate, you want to go first, or
either one of you? Just jump in.
Whatever, Emma. No, I'm just waiting for you to talk. Oh, look, honestly, learning. I had Penny first before I became Family Paws parent educator. Mm-hmm. I think we honestly got extremely lucky with the dog we had. I'm not gonna lie. We were still careful. We did a few basic bits and pieces, but nowhere near what I understand now, or when I first became a Family Paws educator. I think the biggest thing we managed to get right, and whether it was just human nature for us or it was the fact that it was just a little bit of understanding already of the dog psychology because I was a trainer. We let everything go at the dog's pace. We didn't push Penny onto her at all. Didn't push any relationship, didn't push any interactions, nothing whatsoever. In all honesty, we had to actually unglue her a bit from Penny because I think we did so well at, if she came over, we were like, oh yes, you've done awesome, you've got, here's, we gave her something in return. She actually was like, I stayed with the baby. And we were like, not exactly the plan we had. And once we sort of got on top of that, it was, it's blossomed into such a beautiful relationship between the two of them. They just have a very good understanding. Penny can honestly do things with Evie that she would probably find intimidating from us. And this is from 2 years of age up, there's certain things that have happened and we're just like, oh, you've got it. Okay, cool.
And how
old is who, sorry?
Is Penny?
Penny's 4 now.
Okay, yeah, that's a great age. So that's a really important point. I think a lot of people want to know, when is it going to work? And in so much of what we do, we recommend inclusion without direct physical interaction, and we're always talking about that. And people get frustrated because they're like, they want to see them physically together and doing things, and it really is about that. It's in that 3 to 5 range where if you have been patient and you've done a lot of things at a distance and built the trust. Yeah. I have two kittens racing around. So if they fly by, sorry. But if you do that nice, comfortable distancing, parallel play, and not forcing interaction, you get that really lovely relationship that comes between 3 and 5. But, once the child is kind of stopping through that rush of constant physical change and development and growth, and all those milestones are rapidly coming. And it really is beautiful. So that's a great example. And people need to hear that, because I think so many of our families are, how long do we have to do the gates? How long do we, because there's a period of newborn phase where everybody's going, oh, they did okay, they did all right. And then mobility starts, and it often catches people off guard. And we say, oh, you gotta bump up your management, we talk about the management, and I think it's easy for families to feel like, when is it ever going to end?
But
Especially,
it does.
and it does end, and
Yeah.
especially when we're, that 6 month easing into mobility, 6 months, and then at a year, we even say more management, like it has to look a little different. We're tweaking it for those first couple of years. And so hearing from you guys that there's light at the end of the tunnel and there's a method to the madness, because if things fall apart and trust is lost during that mobility, that awkward stage, it's really hard to get that back, and a lot of parents lose trust. So is really important. So that's an important point that I always like to talk about and bring up. So thanks for inadvertently bringing that up.
No worries.
People need to hear it. Emma, I saw you nodding. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I agree. So our story's similar in a way. So we actually started off with Archie and recognised early on with him that he had a problem with kids, particularly toddlers. We weren't sure about babies, but toddlers and preschoolers he tended to growl and snap at. He didn't know how to remove himself from a situation.
Okay.
So being a trainer, recognised that was an issue and that we wanted to have kids, and spent a long time basically just walking around, and anytime we saw a kid going, yay, feed, 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 feed.
Yeah.
This is back in the day where that was before BAT, before a few of these other protocols that we work through now. And basically just made that association where little kids being somewhere close by is great, but let's also teach you to move away from that.
Right.
And heavily, heavily reinforce that choice to move away.
Yeah.
So then when it came to us having kids, we were probably very lucky. We had Sam first. So Sam was a difficult baby, and he was walking at 9.5 months and running by 10. And he was into everything.
In there.
So we had to very quickly put up a lot of management and set up our environment so that Sam couldn't practice the behaviours that we didn't want him to practice.
Mm-hmm.
So we made our house a successful place for him to be, where he couldn't practice the things we didn't like, and that also included him approaching Archie and things like that. A few of the tips that I'd got off the Family Pause website at that point, I'd put into play with the baby gates and setting up those zones to help Archie feel safe. And then it was after we had Lockie, and Lockie just didn't care about going after anything, which was so easy that I was like, wow, you can have kids come from the same family and have such different experiences just depending on that individual child. I then decided to actually do my Family Pause parent educator course, because I felt like at that point I had a lot of experience with different kids and different scenarios, and felt like it was a good time to jump in, because I got how hard things can be. But at that point, we're starting to reap the benefits with Sam of putting in that work and not magnetising him to dogs. And Archie was now choosing to, when I was with Sam, approach Sam and put his paw up and ask for a scratch. And just those little moments of great things happening. And then Sam was starting to ask to scatter feed for Archie and do little treasure hunts and things like that. So as Sam grew, that relationship developed, and it was beautiful. And it was something I never thought we'd get to back before we had kids. So like Kate said.
But you took it gradual, and you took it step by step. So that's been really overwhelming for our folks that are not. I'm sorry. Hold on. You see what a little turkey this guy is? Look at the little one.
I didn't even notice he was there.
No, because I told you, he heard Oliver chewing a bone. And so he came up, and this is what he does. And Oliver, hi, Oliver. Do you see how the dragon's there?
Oh, he's like, save me, Mom.
He's going to take my phone. And look how big Oliver is. But Rudy doesn't care, do you? You're a little turkey. Stop it. I know, Oliver, I know. It's terrible. So, don't you love the tail wag? Oliver's like, please, Mom, please help me. Rudy, that's rude. Get off. Your name is appropriate. I didn't know when Rudy. You're a rude dude. You're so rude. Like he is. He doesn't. I have to show you that. I thought that was they're just so funny. My cats are circling around and opening garbage cans in my kitchen, which tells me there's a mouse. so it's life.
It's life.
Oh my God. 9 a.m. in the morning. Okay. So, it is so awesome to, as hard as it is, something fell. I always think of ourselves in research development during the kids' time. My kids are now, oh my God, I don't even have children anymore. I have adults. So my adults are, oh God, I'm forgetting that's the age I have now. 24, almost 23, 19, and 10. And it is so, okay, go ahead, go figure it out. It is so important. It's so interesting to watch the differences and the changes, the difference in children and how there you go, buddy. I'm sorry. Look, I'm so happy. Big one.
Oh dear.
No one else cares. I'm like, sorry. My dogs take over the live. I usually am in a room, like away from anything, but I can't in the rooms. I apologize. Jen's distraction. I hope it's a little entertaining. They're cute, by the way.
Good.
Yeah. But like it really is interesting to see the difference in kids too. Like who really gravitates towards the animals and who doesn't. And and then also to watch our dogs as they go through, like our husky. I always talk about Bailey. He was such an interesting dog. He loved big kids, like 5 and up. He was good. He would be the sleepover dog. Like he would lay in the middle of it. He would just want to be a part of it. Toddlers? Oh no. He was like, yeah, let me be. So one of the things you talked about was reinforcing a dog for leaving the room. And I want to talk about that a little bit. Definitely. How did you use that? And I want to talk about the pros and the cons. Like for some dogs, that's great. For other dogs, so let's talk about how that worked for you and how you went about that and that kind of thing. I think would be helpful.
So one of the things we had set up was a treat and train. Mm-hmm. So if he chose to leave the room, he would always go towards his bed that was set up about a metre behind a baby gate. So again, he had that space. And
the treat and train it's tell people a little bit about that. They may not know about the treat and train.
Yeah, so the treat and train, you can either set it up on a timer or use a remote to manually dispense treats. We had it set up near a bed, and Archie is the kind of dog that jumps baby gates. So if he wanted to remove himself from a situation, he would jump the baby gate and go find his bed. And when he found his bed, we would make it a very reinforcing place for him to be. So have the treat and train with my remote, and I'd just sit there, and while I'm interacting with Bub or doing something, I would take the time to just every so often press a button and have a few treats dispensed on his bed. The other thing I had was Kongs ready to go or chews, and I would say, good boy, thank you for that, and then walk over, pop a treat on his bed or a long-lasting chew, give him something to do.
I love that. I love it. And the treat and train, listen, I that is an extremely helpful tip, and very helpful for many, many families. Don't mind you. Sorry. Come on. You almost knocked my camera over, dog. And it's really good, and you can get them anywhere. Treat and train. So that is something that many families find helpful, and it's great because you can just hit the button and treats appear, which is great. You don't have to get up when you're nursing or whatever. It's so nice. So Kate, what did you find? Did you use that as well, or tell me about your experience there?
We didn't use the treat and train so much. I can't remember why not with Evie. It definitely works Ziggy up a bit more, the border collie, the noise. So it was not really ideal for that. I do remember though when Penny was a baby, for some reason we'd had a dog stay with us, a client's dog stay with us when I was pregnant, and when Penny was a newborn, I was like, yeah, no worries, let's do it again. The dog slightly annoyed me the first time, so I have no idea why I said it the second time. The dogs got along beautifully, it was fine and that sort of stuff, but I remember when I was feeding Penny, like Evie, she could be and choose where she wanted to go. Louis couldn't quite do that. He would jump up and over me if I let him. So he had to be on the other side of the baby gate, which was fine. I would literally just sit there, and every once in a while, every time he showed some form of calm behaviour, I would just like bomb a treat over the baby, like throw it while I was feeding on one side and just be like, so in that case, probably more ideal to use a treat and train. Yeah. But honestly, for us with Evie, it was mostly crates when we needed it. She was crate trained, so she was quite happy to go in there and have her chew and chill out. Going forward though with Alfie, it's different, but honestly way easier than I anticipated. Leaving hospital with Alfie, Tim and I were slightly petrified how it was going to go. Having a dog with hip dysplasia who had obviously been suffering with anxiety with the whole thing, we hadn't actually got to the bottom of it yet. We still thought it was epilepsy and seizures and all this like stuff, and we were like, this is never going to work out, but I'm going to give him credit, he's bloody nailed it. He's done so well.
Yay! That's great.
For him, it is more like you said, some dogs are quite happy to go and do their separate thing. Other dogs want to be nearer you and do that. Yep. So ironically, he wants to be near us, but he also can struggle with that if there's touch involved. So he's conflicted. But honestly, baby gates for him, perfect. So we baby gate off what was a dining room. It's now the playroom, but like a giant baby gate on one side, small little one on the other side. It has a chair in there. I would feed Alfie in there. Ziggy could lie on the lounge, be as close as possible without being involved with the whole thing. And Penny could go in and out as she pleased. Didn't matter. Like, you know, in that scenario, I didn't actually have to latch the baby gate. He's not going to open it. Ziggy would never do that. But Penny can sort of make her own decisions with what's going on around. So totally different scenarios for both kids. But I think, they just took to it extremely well. Whichever way we went, it worked beautifully. But I think it was just understanding what, you know, the dog needed the most out of the whole thing. Because if we'd separated, I think it would have really messed with how how he dealt with a new baby coming into the house. He had a toddler. He knew a toddler. He understood Penny from 2 years age. He had never been baby other than random interactions. So,
No, and those two descriptions were what I was looking for, really, because what I was thinking about is a lot of times, yes, I do want to. So what I hear from a lot of people is they talk about their dog choosing to move away, and yes, that can be good. But in the situation, I had one of those situations too, Kate, where my shepherd had bilateral hip dysplasia. And he was old. Yeah. He also had massive generalized like anxiety. He was just a mess. And him having to get up and move away because of a baby would have been a very negative thing. So we had to really work around that. And so, you know, I want people to always keep that in mind, that sometimes it's great for the dog who does go away and is agile and able, like my husband, who I would go like take off and he would bolt out of the room. It's great for that. But we want to always take our individual dog's needs into consideration. Some of our speaker dogs, really, it might be painful. And so, and then we do hear people say, well, why, you know, he had the choice to get up and go. But really, we don't want it always being kid approaches and our dog has to go, oh God, I'm out of here, because that's
100%.
yeah, it's a conflict for our dogs. They want to be with us, the trusted adult. They want to be there. And that gets super confusing for people too. Like if the dog says, just chooses to hang around or chooses to come in the room, then people are like, well, they love you around. And I'm like, well, is it that they love you around all of you or just several of you, So there's a lot there. And I think all too often it's recommended to teach the dog when baby approaches, dog leaves. I think we have to remind our families that everything is individual. This is one of the reasons why we really, really, really recommend working with someone who specializes in dog toddler dynamics, because there's a lot of things that you don't know until I call being at home a mom with dogs and kids development. There's a lot of things that you don't know about the reality of that. It looks good
in theory.
In theory. It's not necessarily the best in building the relationships and the bonds and practicality, right?
There's that, and I think it's very underrated that trying to find a way to say this. I guess there's not enough emphasis or not enough people realize how individual every single interaction is. It's not just the bulk of interactions, it's that every single interaction has a different context, a different antecedent, a different thing going on in the background, and it will lead to a different behavior every time. And sometimes the dogs are going to want to stay there even though they're uncomfortable. And then there are other times that, moving away is the better option. And it's so hard to explain to people and get people to understand that there's different ways that we'd approach these in every different scenario. And
making me think of a situation myself where I don't know why this came up, but this is an example. Have you ever been at a conference where there's someone, it's after hours, everybody's hanging out, you're feeling a little tired and brain fried, but there's the people that you want to be there. You want to be there, but part of you is like, I can't. I need to go back to I really should go back to my room. I'm starting to get grumpy. I'm really tired. I just, but that pull to like hang out and mingle and socialize, and you never get to see them. And it's that conflict of, do I don't want to, but I'm actually painfully tired and my brain is pushed. And that's, I don't know why maybe it's wine. It was making me, maybe it's watching you guys drink wine. I'm sitting here. But seriously, it's one of those things, like, that's the conflict I imagine, or like a family gathering where you want to be, but you're so tired, you're over it. You want to leave.
It's FOMO.
Pretty much. It's the state of like an introvert all the time.
And what quarantine's really taught me, I'm okay with this. Like, I really am okay being, I'm actually more an introvert than I knew. But to me also too, like, maybe there's one family member you want to be sitting there late night chatting with, but the other one, someone else joins in, and now you're like, all right, that ruined that. I'm not. You're negotiating, thinking, well, all right, do I bolt now or not? And that's kind of how I figure our dogs are. Their relationship with you is very intimate, very personal, but then there's this little intruder, and it's like, okay, everything looks good. We're having this nice, intimate conversation. We're here. And then, okay, maybe that's over. So I think sometimes those kind of thinking about those scenarios and thinking about how our dogs might feel, but they can't communicate with us. So what they do, well, they can't communicate verbally with us, but they do communicate with us. And one of the things I think that a lot of families miss, and I always encourage, especially during the pregnancy and as soon as we can, is pay attention to check-ins. When your dog looks to you, when they look up at you, just that quick glance. In moments of conflict, concern, stress, uncertainty, dogs almost always check in, and they will continue to do it if you acknowledge it. And I rely on that so heavily in my house Well, the beauty of a check-in is that if you notice when your dog looks at you and notice that and pay attention to that, many times if you ask yourself, what do they need in this moment? Praise or guidance? Look at what's going on in the environment. Look at everything going on. Does your dog need an escape route? Do they need a little, you're doing fine, or that a boy, or do they need, okay, we need a Kong and for you to go outside? What is it that they need? So that's a huge, huge thing that it's so simple. It's so simple. And if anybody watching, if you don't know what a check-in is, I encourage you to go to any YouTube channel and look up kids and dogs and look at interaction. There's always some level of discomfort where the dog is looking at the camera person almost to say, help, help. You recognize it. You will see it in your own dogs. And if you need help with that body language and recognizing these things, reach out to one of us, because that is what we love educating about, isn't it? So do you guys do your dogs check in?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to be honest, I think sometimes they even check in with Penny now, like Alfie, like,
yeah,
yes. I'm busy with Alfie. I can even see them sort of look towards Penny to sort of, for a little help or something. Because, she'll, honestly, one of the best things I think we've done is teach her body language from a very young age. How to read.
100%. Yep.
Yeah. Tell us, that's an important thing. How did you include the dog aware skills and help her to be a doggy detective?
Honestly, it was just, we didn't necessarily go out of our way to do it.
Yeah.
But it's something that if we ever noticed one of the dogs looking, uncomfortable, or, and the whole array of stuff that goes with that, we would explain to her, not only is, Ziggy or Evie feeling obviously a little bit unsure about what's going on, but have you seen her ears? Have you seen her head? Have you seen what her eyes are doing?
Yeah.
And got to a point now that she will sometimes, she picks it up herself, which is beautiful. But we were actually in a cafe today where a dog was there, and it was an excited little terrier thing, whatever. It was a little bit hyped, obviously a little bit over aroused. The human with it, oblivious to the whole thing. It was fine. There was no big issue. But as we left, she's like, Mummy, why is its ears down and why is one ear now up? And I was like, well, what do you think? Like, well, he's a little bit scared, but now he's also, is he listening as well? And I was like, yeah, he is. He's trying to figure out what's going on, babe. And I was like, good on you. Like, he's not where he is, but he's just trying to figure out what's going on. But yeah, it helps her be aware of the fear side of things with one dog and obviously the pain side of things with the other. Which obviously we had to drill into her, but again, paid off leaps and bounds. So yeah.
That's great. That's excellent. Emma, how about you? How did you, instill that and kind of encourage that interest?
For us, just making it part of an everyday conversation. When we're interacting with Archie or another dog or seeing things happen up the street or at the park, and when he asks questions, we just talk about it. We don't gloss over things. We are upfront, we're honest, we talk about it, we include it in just our general conversations. And he's a very, very inquisitive kid, and he wants to know why and what's going on. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I've got no idea. But being able to explain the visual of what you're seeing and actually talk about what you're seeing as opposed to happy, sad, this, that.
Right.
And just say, look, the ears are up, the tail's up, the head's forward. That dog is looking interested. It could be, it could be interested in a positive way, or it could be interested in a, we're going to watch and see what happens next. And
yeah. And I think that's really important. One of the things that we talk about a lot is encouraging our families, like helping expectant families to learn those subtle signals, so that they are able to broadcast them. They are able to share as they see them come up. And as and the more that our kids hear and the more inquisitiveness and curiosity, wow, I wonder what's going on there. Or, it's amazing to watch that grow and develop. And I always love encouraging kids to be doggy detectives. I know, looking at the ears, the eyes, the tail, the muzzle, gathering all those clues to solve the puzzle. And I don't know if you've seen our handouts, our coloring activity sheets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
They're fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. We would love to see some colored, or if you have.
I don't know if you want to see Penny's coloring.
Yes.
That's scary.
If nobody wants to see a blank sheet, we'd love to display nice pictures. Why are you laughing? She has creative style.
She does a ballet class each week online at the moment, obviously, and she has to colour in the ballerina pose each week. Some weeks it's epic, but one week it was like this, like red eyes and like dark. And I was like, mate, what's going through your head? Like, other girls have done like pink and purple. Here's my
don't worry. Everything with Lockie at the moment is he tells jokes at the moment, and it's all about crossing the road to eat something and die. I'm like, what? Where did this come from? Gotta love kids.
Yes, it's a phase. Their imaginations. Well, I'm still stuck back on the fact that Kate, you said you went to a cafe, and I'm thinking you left your house.
Yeah, I know.
We're good here in Perth.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know how you guys are doing it.
It's crazy.
It
Well, we how I'm doing it is we're actually this Sunday our family is going to quarantine at a new four walls. No, we're at phase 2, so we are allowed out and all that fun stuff, and some things are opening, but there's also who knows what's going to happen. But yeah. But anyway, our family is still taking it very slow. My kids are home, but my son, once we get back from the beach, he's going to be moving into an apartment. So there's that. But and then the dogs will be devastated because there'll be one less person here to.
We've just had cafes, playgrounds, and the zoo reopen, so we're very happy. I know, playgrounds. Whoever thought we'd miss them so much?
Yeah.
But we've got no cases of community transmission here, which is phenomenal. So we're feeling very, very fortunate to be in the most isolated city in the world right now.
God. First time ever.
I know.
Thank God. I love the city. I love living here, but it is a long bloody way away from anywhere else. Like,
everywhere.
It is. Yeah, it certainly is. Every time I think about coming, but it will happen. It will happen. So I want to wrap up a little bit. I think we've talked about a lot of things as far as I love the check-ins, and I love just hearing everybody's different experience. So I guess what can my final question be for you guys? So let's go with what is it as a family pause parent educator? I see you down that there.
No, I'm done.
Ready.
Just before, like, Emma and I were messaging earlier, and she was asking questions. I was like, I'm currently sitting in Penny's room while she's having a meltdown. Like, I sent her to bed without a shower, without teeth. I was like, mate, just go to bed.
You're so tired.
You're like out of it. Like,
yeah.
Oh, I get it. I'm very happy to be past that, but I remember it so well. And I still who doesn't want to go to bed ever. But what are, as a family pause parent educator, what would be a tip or several tips, or what was so beneficial that you applied in your own life that you wouldn't have known before, but has really helped you? Here you go, deep thought. So, I hope there's something.
There's too many things.
Okay.
I know, it's a little bit.
Rattle them all off. No, well, think about, like.
Actually, I've got one.
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk about success stations, so one of the biggest things that I've taken from that, and then taken from some other parenting forums, is not just success stations for your dog, but also success stations for your child. So we follow a lot of, I guess, at Mad Gerber, Jeanette Lansbury, RIE type parenting, which is all respectful. And one of the things that they advocate for is setting up a space in the house called a yes space. So it's a playpen or an area gated off where the child is free to do anything and everything within that space. There is no things that they need to be told no about.
I love that.
So I feel like that's setting up a success station for the child, and that gives you just another tool in the toolbox. So it's using that those skills that we've learnt with Family Pause to set the dog up, but we're also setting our child up because, you know, that impulse control isn't there as a toddler, and their awareness and their control of their emotions and things like that doesn't develop till later. So putting those expectations on them having to control themselves it's just not realistic. So setting them up to succeed is probably the biggest thing I've taken away from the whole thing.
And if you have something in an article or information, I would love to read more about that particular space, because that is essentially what success stations originally, you know, I would go into homes and talk about gates and crates and everything, and people would just feel so like guilty for separating their dog. And when I put it as, you know, we're actually setting them up a space where they're only going to be successful. They can only succeed. And that was really the intention, and turning it around so that they understood, like, you know, when they're out and about, they can make all sorts of undesirable choices. And this would be so much better to set them up for success. And in my house, we get weird about calling crates things. Like Rudy has his castle, you know,
love it.
Good. And Oliver has his Shepherd Chateau. So, you know, you can be creative so that you don't feel like, go to your cage, you know?
Yeah.
Fun. And our
Get
dog
in your box.
in there. But our dogs love their castle and their chateau. And you know, even our third dog tends to gravitate to one or the other every now and then. So changing how we view it is super important, especially during these times when you're going to need it. So that's part of it too, was changing how people view it and see it. And I think that's true with what you're saying as well, because yeah, it's one of those things. How about you, Kate?
I think what I got out of it, like the most, honestly, is just putting or clarifying kind of what I knew in a way, but obviously expanding on it, but putting it into different terminology as well. One of the biggest things, and I've said it a million times in puppy school before having kids, probably even after having Penny, without really elaborating, would just be supervise. Supervise your child and your dog. Supervise your child and your dog. Yet don't leave them alone. Yet basic stuff. And then I think of myself as a fairly observant person. I can kind of, as I say to Penny, I was like, mate, I know what you're going to do before you even do it, mate. Like, I've picked up, you're going to get nothing out of me. But, so I, you know, can basically have, you know, hear a dog over there, my dog, and I'm like, cool, my dog's over there, that's no worries, kids over here, that's fine. They're not, you know, separated per se, but we've got space. It's not a problem. But just because I understand that, that's fine. And to me, that was supervision, but I wouldn't have necessarily then put it into the different, you know, categories that you guys have it in. And obviously now being able to say to people, you have to be actively supervising your child and your dog, and not just be present, you know, be involved in the whole thing. And I guess the same goes for sort of the grumble growl zone things. Yeah, you know, to let the dog approach the kid. The kid approach the dog in an area that the dog can't escape, and, you know, and things like that. And it just, I guess, expanded on that to think, you know, everyone thinks it's cute when the dogs and the kids are at the door together when dad comes home. It is, you know, it's, they're excited, awesome, whatever. But, you know, the things that can just now what you see once you have more knowledge, it's
you can't unsee.
No, you can't unsee. Penny today fell off a step stool and landed like that far away from Ziggy's face, who was lying on the floor. Like, I mean, complete accident, you know, it's going to happen. Yeah. Ziggy's honest reaction was, are you serious? I was like, mate, you're a legend. Ran off.
It's like, whoa, treat party.
Complete and utter, like, the words that would have come out of my mouth, I can't say on the live. But, like, yeah, it makes me, makes it easier for me to be able to convey to people that, you know, it's everyday life, but it just puts it into terms they can understand and gives it a little bit more clarification for them.
Yeah, and I love that situation you're just explaining. You know, with Ziggy is if
many.
Yeah, well, many. But it's so true. If people do kind of really observe and pay attention to the body language and the comfort level of the dogs, and are encouraging, you know, not going close, and babies not going close. If there's trust built and they can defer to the trusted adult by checking in, then when oops moments happen or incidents such as, I remember my daughter stumbled in the kitchen and fell on the back of my dog Corinne, and she turned around, whipped her head around as a dog's going to do, and she didn't make contact, but she was startled. It, you know, was right on her haunches.
Yeah.
You know, those oops moments happen, but if there's already distrust in the dog because the child is constantly approaching them and nobody's intervening and not seeing it, the likelihood of a bite happening immediately in those situations is really increasing. So attention and observing.
Actually,
yeah.
We actually had a similar situation a few weeks ago where Archie was lying at the foot of the bed, and Lockie, my 3.5-year-old, was rolling around on the bed, accidentally rolled off the bed onto Archie. Archie jumped up, growled right at Lockie, but then immediately turned around and checked in with me. And I was like, yay, good boy, let's go get to the fridge. So we do the Steve Mann thing where we go running to the fridge and get a treat, and making that level of communication and that trust in me that I'm going to look after him and nothing bad's going to happen when he does escalate to that level of communication because he's been startled.
Right.
That good things still happen.
Yeah.
And he can trust me. Yeah.
It's so, so, so important.
Absolutely.
And it is important that we as parents, and this is the hard thing too, that we have patience for that when our dogs make a mistake, we're not yelling at them and using fear at all in how we're working with them, that we're really making it a safe two-way street connection. It's so, so, so important. And those are things that, you know, I definitely had to always improve and think about it. You know, we all have our days that we're like, okay, you know, some days I'm just looking at my dogs like, my God, you're all just getting on my last nerve. You know, good luck. You don't know how well you have it here. You know, those kinds of things. But really, they're doing the best they can, and sometimes it's really hard. But we do have to be that trusted adult. So when we have our bad days or we snap off every now and then, we have to rebuild and remind them that, yep, we are here. We are here for you, and reinforce those checking in and those relationships, because it's super, super helpful when you have little ones in the house.
Yes.
Who don't have good communication skills. So you're talking about dogs that don't have verbal communication skills and little ones communication skills, and everything relies on body language and our observation to diffuse, to keep things pretty even, you know, under control.
Yeah.
So those are great points. But yeah, I love that you mentioned grumble zone and growl zone. That is something that we talk about in our dogs and toddlers program. So we always run dogs and toddlers program a couple times a year. We have one coming up in July that is available for anybody online. And these concepts are all, I think we covered mostly concepts that are actually in the dog department, because that's where you guys are in your daily life. So if you want more information, you can go to familypause.com. And if you would like to hire one of our educators, we have educators all over the world, but we also have many who do remote consultations as well. So you can go to familypause.com and look at the Find an Educator. And we invite everybody to follow us on Instagram. So that is at Family Pause Official. We love to get tagged and love to see your pictures and everything else too. So thank you, ladies, for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thank you.
This will play, I think, as a watch party on June 18th when I'm away. So I do believe that's what's happening on the Family Pause Parent Education group or page. So you can look for that.
Yay!
I'm watching myself.
Yeah, no, I never watch myself. So thanks everybody else, all of the followers. You ladies do know we have over 11,000 followers, right? Okay.
I learned that in the previous live.
So, all right, until next time.